Okay, let's dive in. We are tackling a really interesting, sometimes head-scratching combination in astrology today. The Capricorn woman and the Sagittarius man.
Yeah, think Earth meets fire. It's quite the mix.
Exactly. We've gone through a stack of articles, looked at some research, even, dipped into online discussions to understand this dynamic.
hmm
Our goal is to pull out the most important insights and figure out what makes this, well, seemingly unlikely pairing tick. Looking at the challenges.
And the surprising strengths, too.
Right, how they can build something strong despite the differences.
And right from the start, the core of their dynamic, as the sources really highlight, it comes down to their planets and elements.
Okay.
You have the Capricorn woman, guided by Saturn. It's the planet of discipline, structure, responsibility. She's Earth,
Yep.
Grounded, practical.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the Sagittarius man, ruled by Jupiter, planet of expansion, freedom, big picture optimism. He's a fire sign, energetic, always moving.
So that fundamental difference, earth and fire, structure versus freedom.
Exactly. That creates this dynamic tension right at the heart of the relationship. We're exploring what all this means for you and this specific pairing.
Absolutely. So who are these two players individually? Let's unpack the Capricorn woman first. What do the sources consistently tell us about her core nature?
Well, she comes across as a real powerhouse, incredibly pragmatic, ambitious, disciplined.
That seems right. Defined by her drive, her focus.
Yeah, often very career-oriented, always seems busy, and has this incredible knack for bringing order to chaos. Life, work, you name it.
And there's a deep ambition there.
Definitely. A relentless pursuit of success, of long-term goals. It really fuels her.
And you see that in her methodical approach, right? The eye for detail, thriving on structure, discipline.
Precisely. Hard work, practicality, responsibility. These aren't just like abstract values for her. It's how she operates.
Which can make her seem a bit unyielding sometimes because she's so focused on stability.
It can, yeah. And that focus on permanence, which really stems from her Saturn influence, it deeply shapes her approach to commitment. Well, she looks for security, for longevity in a relationship.
Right.
And that's a really significant point of contrast when we look at the Sagittarius man, whose priorities might lean elsewhere.
Interesting. And she's described as introverted too.
Often, yes. Preferring deep, close-knit relationships over a huge social network. She chooses her friends, and certainly her partner, very carefully.
But loyal.
Lifelong loyalty.
Yep.
But she expects that same level of commitment and respect back. It's a two-way street.
Okay, now let's turn to the Sagittarius man. Looking at the sources, he seems almost the complete opposite.
In many ways, yes. He's the adventurous, free-spirited explorer, ruled by that big, freedom-loving Jupiter.
Expansion, optimism.
He embodies it, approaches life with joy. He's inherently sociable and has this insatiable craving for adventure, new experiences.
Like travel, meeting people.
Yeah, travel, different people, just being out, exploring the world. He's full of energy.
He's also known for boundless optimism, isn't he? Always seeing the bright side.
He really is. Spreads positivity. And he's described as a very supportive person, too. Someone you can actually rely on for help and comfort.
But even though he's social, he's selective. Like her.
Right. Selective about his close connections. He prefers depth there. But his defining trait is probably that intense wanderlust, that deep appreciation for personal freedom.
Spontaneity is his thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thrives on it. The unexpected is kind of his comfort zone. And he's known for being honest, straightforward.
Sometimes blunt.
Can be, yeah. Sometimes comes across as blunt because he's just so direct.
So you immediately see the tension here. Capricorn, grounded earth, Saturn's structure, planning, seeking security, long-term commitment. Sagittarius, fueled by fire, Jupiter's expansion, spontaneity, needing freedom, new experiences.
It's the classic earth and fire dynamic, fundamentally different energies, and that creates both significant challenges and, surprisingly, a potential for incredible balance.
The sources call it an unusual love story, right? Or yin and yang.
Exactly.
Right.
Because their core natures are just so contrasting.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Despite these huge differences, some sources point to a surprising initial connection, sometimes described as built on, like, strong sex appeal and a shared vision for winning.
Yeah, it suggests that beneath those surface contrasts, there are maybe unexpected areas of common ground or attraction.
Something powerful enough to make them think, okay, maybe we can navigate this.
Right. It hints that the initial spark, while maybe unexpected, is strong enough to make them consider tackling those rougher seas.
Speaking of rough seas,
Mhm.
what are the specific hurdles this Capricorn-Sagittarius pairing faces? What challenges pop up most often in the sources?
Well, the most obvious one is simply their contrasting personalities, how they view life.
Sure.
The Capricorn woman's careful, planned approach can feel really restrictive to the adventurous Sagittarius.
So you might see her as too serious or rigid,
Yeah, and she might see him as too carefree, maybe even irresponsible.
and their lifestyles must clash too. She likes order, planning, routine.
While he craves spontaneity, hates being tied down, always ready for an unplanned adventure.
That difference in just daily life approach means they absolutely have to compromise, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
They need to find a rhythm that works for both. Compromise is key there.
And communication styles. Big difference there too.
Huge difference. The Sagittarius man is typically open, direct, sometimes blunt, like we said.
Yeah.
And he can be prone to emotional outbursts when he gets frustrated.
Whereas she's more reserved.
Very reserved, thinks before she speaks, deliberate in her communication, which, can be interpreted as cold or distant sometimes.
I saw one source joke about Capricorns not being the best texters.
Huh. Yeah, that highlights her more formal, less spontaneous communication style. It fits.
And that difference carries over into emotional expression too, I bet.
It does. Capricorn women aren't usually outwardly mushy or overtly emotional. They can find it genuinely difficult to articulate deep feelings.
While Sagittarius men are generally more expressive.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
So this can lead to a disconnect. He might feel she's emotionally unavailable.
And she might feel he's overly dramatic.
Exactly. And then there's a really significant conflict around commitment levels.
Ah, yeah. His need for freedom versus her need for security.
Right. His need for freedom can look like a non-committal attitude, especially early on. She, on the other hand, deeply desires long-term commitment, security, often marriage.
And the sources say this is potentially the biggest emotional conflict.
It's flagged as a major one, yes.
Yeah.
It requires serious alignment and understanding from both sides.
Even just finding stuff to do together can be tough. Described as a fun challenge in the beginning.
Yeah, her smaller social circle might clash with his very social nature. Her tendency to resist change might run up against his playful insistence, like him poking until she caves and tries something new.
So, okay, clear points of friction there stemming from their core differences.
Definitely.
But it's not all uphill battles. When you look at the sources, they also highlight significant strengths, areas where this pairing doesn't just work, but can actually be incredibly powerful. Where do they find harmony?
What's really striking is their intellectual compatibility.
Oh, interesting.
Both are intelligent individuals, and they both really value a smart partner. When they put their minds together on a shared goal, the sources describe them as dream team.
Yeah.
Great at working together, solving problems.
Absolutely. I read that to combine his visionary ideas with her workaholic attitude and grounded execution.
And sources say there's nothing they can't accomplish together.
Wow. And they enjoy deep talks.
Very much so. Meaningful conversations about career plans, philosophy, life goals. They challenge and support each other intellectually.
Okay, what about physical chemistry, given their different speeds?
Right. She might be slower, needing that deep connection first. He might be faster, driven by fun and exploration. But despite that, sources say their sexual chemistry can be surprisingly strong and lively.
How does that work?
Well, her focus on pleasing her partner, combined with his desire for novelty and new experiences, when they find their rhythm, it can apparently make the connection stronger and more interesting.
Trust and loyalty are those strengths too.
Huge strengths. Both signs are inherently loyal. And maybe surprisingly, given the contrast, they often find it easy to trust each other.
Why is that?
Well, his direct honesty is particularly noted. That straightforwardness can actually put the naturally cautious Capricorn woman at ease. She knows where she stands.
And they find common ground in success, ambition.
A very powerful common ground. They often unite in their dedication to their careers and mutual growth. They genuinely inspire and push each other to achieve more.
Sources call them a remarkable duo, a powerful pair.
Yes, especially when they focus on ambition together.
And they manage to balance independence and togetherness. That seems tricky.
They can, yeah. Sources describe them as a power couple, precisely because they often manage to maintain their unique identities while still collaborating effectively as a strong team.
Finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. Between her need for organization and his need for fun and unpredictability. That mutual respect for their individual needs actually leads to, as one source put it, less conflicts, more productivity.
So it's that synergy then, their strengths complementing each other.
That's where the potential for a truly dynamic bond lies.
Okay, so if they have these significant challenges, but also these surprising strengths, how do they actually make it work? For the long haul, the sources must offer strategies.
Oh, absolutely. And right at the top of the list is communication and understanding.
Always key, isn't it?
Always. But especially here, learning to openly express needs, worries, frustrations without either partner shutting down or, exploding is called the cornerstone.
So he needs to really listen to her anxieties.
Yes, and she needs to push herself to be more outwardly expressive of her feelings, even when it's uncomfortable.
And embracing their differences, not trying to change each other.
That's crucial. Seeing those differences not as problems, but as strengths, as opportunities to learn and grow together, acknowledging and even celebrating what makes the other unique.
Compromise sounds non-negotiable, too.
Completely non-negotiable. They have to find that middle ground between his need for spontaneity and freedom and her need for structure and stability.
So maybe she needs to loosen her grip on control sometimes.
Consciously, yes.
Yeah.
And he needs to temper his impulsiveness a bit and show commitment in ways that build her sense of security. Actions, not just words.
And this leads straight into mutual growth, right? They learn from each other.
They really do. She helps him develop patience, appreciate planning, understand the value of stability.
And he helps her loosen up, find more joy.
Exactly. Embrace spontaneity. Learn to enjoy the journey itself, not just the destination. This mutual learning process is vital for their individual and shared evolution.
Building trust and providing security for each other seems fundamental, too.
It is. Her reliability provides that solid ground he actually needs, even if he doesn't always admit it. And his willingness to explore can help her step outside her comfort zone safely.
Supporting each other's core needs her security, his exploration.
When they do that, it strengthens the bond immensely.
It all comes back to celebrating those complementary strengths, then.
Yeah. When they consciously recognize how her stability enables his visions and how his optimism brings joy into her structured world, that's when they create that synergistic power couple dynamic.
But it takes effort.
Absolutely. The sources are very, very clear on this. This relationship takes work. It relies heavily on dedication and sustained commitment from both partners to truly thrive long-term. It doesn't just happen. It's built.
So what's the final word, then, on their long-term potential, despite maybe low compatibility scores on paper?
The consensus from the sources seems to be that a deeply rewarding and long-lasting partnership is undeniable if they put in that effort.
So success isn't guaranteed by the signs alone.
Not at all. It depends on both partners' commitment and willingness to adapt, as the sources stress again and again. When they manage to balance their traits, work through the challenges, they can forge a lasting partnership and achieve what some sources called celestial harmony.
And you even see real-world examples mentioned in the sources, like on Reddit forums and things?
Yeah, famous pairings often get cited. David Bowie and Iman, Michelle and Barack Obama, John Legend and Chrissy Teigen, all Capricorn women with Sagittarius men who built very significant public relationships.
But it's not always a success story.
Right. And it's important to note that, as the sources do, they also mention pairings that didn't last, like Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth.
Which just reinforces the point.
Exactly. Astrology highlights potential dynamics, potentials for friction, potentials for synergy, but it's the individual people, their willingness to communicate, compromise, put in the actual work that ultimately determines the outcome.
Still, the fact that many people see this pairing constantly, as one source put it, and see it working.
It speaks to that potential for mutual growth, definitely.
So what does this all mean for you, listening?
Our deep dive into the sources shows that, yeah, the Capricorn woman and Sagittarius man pairing is complex. It's challenging. It's rooted in those fundamental contrasts, earth and fire, structure and freedom.
But it is absolutely not doomed. With conscious effort, open communication, a real willingness to compromise, and a genuine appreciation for what the other brings to the table, this relationship has immense potential.
Potential for profound growth, mutual support.
And becoming that truly dynamic power couple.
And really understanding these dynamics, whether you use astrology, personality types, whatever framework, it's ultimately about gaining perspective, isn't it? Finding tools to navigate relationships with more awareness, more intention.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. If two signs described as being so fundamentally different, almost polar opposites in some ways, can find profound connection and build something truly lasting and powerful by embracing those very differences.
Yeah.
What could that teach us about making any relationship thrive, regardless of compatibility scores or the contrast we might initially perceive?
A compelling thought indeed.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.